From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Very good show tonight. We are talking about what many people are talking about, and that is immigration. Immigration nationally and internationally. Certainly here in Tennessee today, a lot happened, some heated rhetoric in the state legislature. And we want to hear from you. What do you think about that? We want to kind of go over what happened. A lot to dissect, a lot to discuss, and we are happy to have with us immigration attorney Elliot Osmond. Thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Today, Representative Glenn Cassada had some heated things to say, had some, I guess, controversial things to say about that we should gather up the Syrian refugees in Tennessee, send them back to New Orleans to make sure they aren't terrorists. We're going to play the story in a moment, but what do you think, in the wake of the terrorist attacks, some of what you're hearing in the immigration discussion? What do you think?
Well, my general reaction is that I'm not surprised at the general reaction, especially here in the South. Mr. Cassada, if that's how you pronounce his name, is a well-known xenophobe who never has taken to immigrants. And this is no surprise that he would go after immigrant widows and orphans in this time of crisis in the world. I think it's a sad commentary on politicians that would seek to take political advantage by pandering to the rednecks and racists and bigots in our society on the backs of...
You're saying some pretty heavy stuff there.
Yes, I am, because I think it calls for a heavy response when this kind of hateful rhetoric has been used by politicians to pander to the baser elements of our society.
Now, what he would say, and again, we'll show this, what he had to say earlier, is that an FBI director said it's hard to identify, it's hard to do background checks on some of the Syrian refugees coming in, that in the Paris attacks, there may be some indication that one of those involved at least was a Syrian refugee. So he's saying we need to be safe. That would be his point of view. Is that so off base?
I don't disagree that we need to be safe. But what Mr. Cassada doesn't understand is that these refugees are very thoroughly vetted before they get here. There's not a single Syrian refugee that has fled from the ISIS terrorists in Syria that has reached the United States yet. Now, they may be on their way. That is, the refugees may be on their way, but there's not a single refugee that's reached here yet. They are still in debriefing camps and refugee camps overseas. And right now, as we speak, they're being vetted. That vetting process is going to take anywhere from 24 to 36 months. It's going to be 2 to 3 years before that wave of refugees from Syria ever comes to the United States. Now, we do have Syrian refugees here, but they came a long time before the current crisis has developed. And so, Mr. Cassada, I don't know what he's referring to, but he's not referring to refugees that came here as a result of the ISIS persecutions in Syria, because those people haven't even arrived here yet.
Well, let's take a look. So we want to show the story that Mark Bellinger put together based on the news conference that Representative Cassada had earlier today. So let's take a look at the story from Mark Bellinger earlier today.
The comments come as people fear what happened in Paris will happen here. Thompson Station Republican Representative Glenn Cassada says recently settled Syrian refugees in Tennessee should be sent back to the federal government.
We gather them, we take them back to ICE. I think they're based in New Orleans. We take them back to ICE, back to the federal government, and we say, gentlemen, make sure these guys have no tie to terrorist activity. That's all I'm saying.
Cassada defended his statement by referring to an ISIS operative and the director of the FBI. The terrorist group claims to have smuggled thousands of ISIS gunmen into Europe by hiding them among innocent refugees. FBI Director James Comey told the Congressional Committee last month Syrian refugees will be hard to check because there's little information about them in U.S. databases. Cassada's comments drew heavy criticism from immigrant rights groups and Democrats.
Representative Cassada's comments are deeply disturbing, and this is the United States of America. We don't round people up.
The preposterous idea that we use the National Guard to go round up individuals who are here in our state is repulsive to me as an American, and it's repulsive to me as a Christian.
Cassada also advocates breaking the law to stop the federal government from sending Syrian refugees to Tennessee.
I am calling for civil disobedience in order to protect the lives and the property of Tennesseans, and that has consequences.
That's irresponsible conversation. You're talking about some civil disobedience for that when we can manage the problem? That makes no sense. That's not leadership quality, okay? That's absurd.
So that gives you a sense of what was going on up at the Capitol today, up in the legislature today. Your comments after seeing all of that?
Well, my comments, first of all, as to Mr. Cassada's direct comments, are totally illogical on their face. Let's examine specifically what he said. What he said is that if the federal government lets these refugees in to the United States, and if they find their way to Tennessee, then we ought to round them up and give them back to the federal government. And he says, all he's saying is, check these guys out and make sure that they're not terrorists. Now, Mr. Cassada should know that the United States would never have let those refugees in the first place had they been able to detect that they had any connection whatsoever to any terrorist network. And so for him to claim that all of a sudden, just because we round them up here in Tennessee and we can turn them back over to the federal government and ask the federal government to do what it's already done over the course of 24 to 36 months is simply tomfoolery. And it's illogical on its face. He's wanting to ask the federal government to do something it will have already done over a 24 to 36 month period. So once again, he is just demagoguing, which is what he's very good at. And he's demagoguing on an issue that is already sensitive enough. And what he's doing is, in effect, playing into the hands of the ISIS terrorists. What Mr. Cassada wants to do is to lead a movement against Islam and to make a war between Islam and the Western world. And that's precisely what ISIS wants. They want to drag us into a world war of the West versus Islam. And every redneck reprobate that talks about this kind of thing is playing right into the hands of the ISIS terrorists. Now, he is an ally of ISIS.
We heard, we're going to play more from his news conference, and so I know other things that he said, and what he said is, and others have said, that they don't have complete confidence in the ability of the government to have vetted these refugees thoroughly. And so in the wake of these Paris attacks, let's take a step back and go through that process again, is what he would say if he were here. That's how he would respond.
Well, I would say that given the 24 to 36 months that's going to transpire before they come, that should give us enough time to vet these people and to determine whether they are truly connected to a terrorist network. Let's look at what the French government was able to do. The French government has conducted hundreds of raids all over France as well as Belgium. And they have arrested several hundred people and they have killed, even as late as today, the mastermind of the terrorist attack. We need to have confidence in the authorities. If the French police can do that, surely the American intelligence community can do that. This American intelligence community was started and built by an ally of Mr. Cassada, George W. Bush. And we've continued it now for 8 years, almost 8 years, since George W. Bush left office. Is he saying that he's lost all confidence in the network that was built by his president, George W. Bush?
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to take your phone calls. There's several people on the line. Hold on. We will get to your call. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.